Watch and burn.
Hey everyone. So tonight I wanted to discuss the Agoraphobic Nosebleed's second album, and that is Frozen Corpse Stuffed with Dope, which in addition to being fucking a completely kick-ass record, that I will argue that towards the end it does sort of grow a little uneven sounding. It gets really, really heavy at the end, whereas the start of the record is really fast and thrashy. This is probably the best title of a record I have ever heard. Frozen Corpse Stuffed with Dope. I just love saying it. I love how it rolls off the tongue. There's something very linguistically pleasing about that title. Frozen Corpse Stuffed with Dope. That's like the best album title I've ever heard in my life. And the music on here, the drum programming is continuing to get so much tighter than it was on Honky Reduction. This record feels more like one complete product from Hull and Company. Randall's lyrics are still just as fucking crazed and coming out of left field as ever. There's a healthy heaping of misogyny and homophobia tossed in. So if you're sensitive about that sort of thing, I would steer clear of this. Now, of course, this is done more from the perspective of an abusive person. It's not so much the band expounding on their political beliefs or their social beliefs, of course. I don't believe any of the guys in the band have anything against women or gay people. So it's more of like a narration from the song's point of view, as opposed to, like I said, a personal take on how they feel about people in the world. But if you are sensitive to that sort of thing, and it does seem that a lot of people are sensitive to a lot of things as of 2022, I would definitely steer clear of this record, because there's some shit on here that is pretty rough to hear. The lyrics are incredibly brutal. Bitch's handbag full of money has the line, "All I'd buy a bitch is a bag of shit to choke on." So if that's the second track too, and that sort of sets up the rest of the album. This album has a lot of hatred. This album is incredibly angry, and whereas the hatred is, like I said, there's like a stream of consciousness vibe to this. Like Randall's lyrics are still just as wild as ever. The hatred seems more focused here, and it seems more driven. And if hatred isn't your thing, again, I would steer clear of this album, because with tracks like Bitch's Handbag Full of Money all the way through to like Blind Hatred Finds a Tit, I just run from this record, because this record is not going to be for you. But then you could argue back that this record is already not for most people. The songs are incredibly fast. They're crazy. They're completely psychotic. And then you toss in the incredibly negative lyrical angle, and you've got pretty much like a powder keg situation where most people are just going to fucking throw their hands up and be like, I don't want any part of this. But I love it, because I love how it sort of like encapsulates the worst aspects of society, and I love how I believe every word of it. Like the characters in each of the songs are so driven by hatred, and this record it's almost scary in how honest it is hatred-wise, and it's so antisocial. This entire record just says, go away and leave me in my cabin where I am building bombs to kill people with. And that's probably exactly where you should leave a record like this if you can't wrap your head around how this is more satirical than it is literal. But even if you get the satire, this record is still not going to be for most people, because the drum programming alone, like they're operating out of like 2 to 4 to 500 beats per minute. And that shit is just fucking insane. And these songs, they just keep pounding out, and they're so quick, and they're so fast, and they're so aggressive, and they're so angry. And Randall's vocal delivery and his vocal style, in a lot of ways it reminds me of what Alec Empire was doing with the Atari Teenage Riot, with how it's sort of going against the grain of the song. And it's like, it's almost like yelled on top of it. But at the same time, it goes along perfectly well with it, which I just love. That's one of the things that I've always loved about the Atari Teenage Riot 2, is Alec Empire's ability to like talk yell against the music and yet still find it to be perfectly in time with the music, and it adds so many more layers to an already incredibly well-layered bunch of songs from an awesome band. And the same thing applies here. Randall's like off yelling It fits perfectly. It's absolutely brilliant, and I love this record. I love the artwork. I love the feel of the record. I love how wild the lyrics are. But I will argue that by the end of the album, it starts to feel sort of uneven. The songs get a lot more like crushingly heavy, and they weren't like that at the start. They were more like fast and thrashy, and the drum programming is still kind of all over the place, like as far as the samples that were used. There's no real consistency. And this would hold pretty much true through their next release too, which was Altered States of America. But as of Agoraphobic, which is, as of 2022, is still their last complete full length, the drums are more real sounding. I believe Hull was using Tune Track for those, and the drums are more solidified, and it's like a real kit that's employed for each and every track. But that is definitely not what's going on here. The drum programming is all over the place. The samples are all over the place. And for the most part, I find that it works, but I just don't love like roughly the last 10 or so tracks of this record because it just becomes too uneven for me. And yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I discuss the Agoraphobic Nosebleed's follow-up to Honky Reduction, and that is the best titled album ever, Frozen Corpse Stuffed with Dope. I love saying that. Frozen Corpse Stuffed with Dope. If you like this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.